We have here a couple of boys that have gotten themselves into some trouble. They've been sent to the principal's office. They have to explain themselves. The principal here is Dana Loesch, formerly of the National Rifle Association. Now, she's not playing the role of one of those old-time principals, you know, the ones that were kind of strict and the ones we feared, the ones that kept order in their schools and had a healthy learning environment so that students learned. No, we're talking about the new kind of principal, the ones that like to hug the kids when they cross the street. And she feels sorry for these two boys. She understands deep down they're really good guys, and so she's going to throw up a whole bunch of softball questions and let them explain what they said. Now, who's the teacher in this? This dude. And I'm not joking. It's this guy. Now, you may think, well, wait a minute here now. A couple of big brawny guys like this, they went up against him and got hammered? Oh, yeah. Because even though these guys probably have AR-15 rifles and tactical vests and have served in Afghanistan, they're on the New York Times turf. That's the land of public opinion. They didn't stand a chance. So they got taught. And they're here to explain what they did wrong and whether they learned something from it and whether they're going to do better in the future. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnnie Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dread Show.
So who do we have here? We have Evan Hafer, Matt Best, and they are representatives of the Black Rifle Coffee Company. And let's see how they do.
We're doing great. To be honest with you, we were up in, I was up in Big Sky, Montana. I was doing a total archery challenge.
Ooh, Big Sky, Montana. Archery challenge. Row.
Up there for the last couple of days. So I've been shooting foam targets in the mountains with my buddies. And so, you know, Twitter is...
Shooting targets. Man, that's real manly action.
Kind of a self-contained ecosystem of disaster that I try to most.
And it's very easy for things to go sideways very quickly. It's like it's like playing the worst game of telephone possible.
Yeah, maybe a good reason why not to play the game.
I feel like, right? So let me ask you this: with the New York Times, who approached whom for a story? How did this happen?
So the genesis of this is Matt and I were actually bass fishing in Florida, and we were out in southern Florida right before what was the race?
I think you caught the bigger bass.
Either way, we were bass fishing with
bass fishing, really manly stuff.
One of our good friends out there, and he owns a fishing shop you guys might have heard of called Bass Pro.
That's a little store. I've heard of that.
It's a little store. So
Mom and Pop shop.
Bass fishing, and we get pinged by the New York Times. Hey, we're doing a story on you. Whether you like it or not, like, this is what we're doing. And
so then go do it.
So we kind of went around, we debated it for quite a while as to, like, okay, do we just tell them to fuck off? And sorry.
Actually, that might have been a better thing to do.
Sorry.
We gotta watch the Portuguese for the.
I apologize. I apologize.
It's
Sorry.
okay. It's okay. It's been a crazy weekend. We do have that one pass with Brendan Carr, FCC commissioner. So, you know, if we need to pull that.
I will not say any more of this. Do we just tell him, like, you know, no?
He swears like a man. What a great guy.
Not interested, or do we actually give them the opportunity to write an objective piece, which I know is almost impossible, or statistically impossible for the Times.
Therefore, they're not going to do it, are they?
To do. We don't live in a fictional reality. I completely understand what the perspective of the Times is, but I also thought about it in the context of, if they want to try to write an objective story, for at least our community, we can highlight a lot of different veteran-related issues that we see every day.
Yeah.
You know, over 500 people in Black Rifle Coffee, just about half of them are veterans. And we had some things that could sync relatively appropriately with this, which is we do a veteran adaptive athlete shoot every year. where we bring out service members that have been directly physically and mentally harmed by these wars. There are over 35 people associated with that. And we really did feel that it would be appropriate to be as transparent as we can, to be very objective, or at least.
Yeah, and for context on this too, a little bit, Dana, the first thing when the guy showed up, Evan and I were like, how's that hit piece coming?
Yeah.
That was it, because, we were naive coming into this, but it was really a way of saying, hey, can we show you a more holistic approach? We know that there's going to be misrepresentations of our company. We weren't sure which way. I mean, I was pretty nail in the head with how the story turned out.
Okay, so here, let me get this straight. You really thought that being transparent was going to somehow work in your favor here, huh? Okay. The New York Times basically had one of two objectives. They either wanted to turn your own customers away from you, or they wanted to ignite a cancel culture against you by everybody else. And it turns out they accomplished both objectives. At some point, when did this ever sound like a good idea? By the way, it's a pretty cool photograph of the Endurance in the background. I like that.
But, it was just us trying to say, hey, look at what we're doing. Look at the
well, you're a
charitable
business.
stuff.
You're a business, and you do veteran advocacy. I mean, it would be, honestly, it'd be kind of stupid for you to not be involved. I mean, it's not like you guys aren't pundits. You guys aren't political analysts. You have a company, and we're in this like crazy hyper political time, and you do a lot of good stuff for veterans. So yeah, I mean, I don't blame you for wanting to participate. I mean, it would be one thing if you guys were two pundits on Fox or whatever, and you guys were going to do it. Then it gets a little different. But yeah, so let me ask you this.
Okay, so let me clue you in on something else here. The New York Times had no interest in your veteran story. They saw a company in the headlights, a company that had gotten itself into hot water with its own customer base and everybody else. They also saw a company they hated because they figured that Black Rifle Coffee Company was a alt-right institution. They weren't interested in your veteran story. They'll put some of that in there, but the readers are not going to care about that kind of stuff. They want to know about Kyle Rittenhouse. You for him or are you against him? And also the January 6th deal. How do you feel about the insurrection? That's what they want to know. This veteran crap, okay, they'll print some of it, but nobody cares.
It's matter, Evan, which one of you wants to take this. Did you know the perspective of the story, or did you have an idea? Because calling you the coffee shop of the right, honestly, and I'm going to put some tinfoil on my head here, it almost seems like if I were a competing coffee company and I wanted to do a hit on you guys commercially, this is how I would do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how you would do it. So don't call this a victory of any sort. I mean, you got taken. The truth is that you were a coffee company of the right. That's where you got your customer base from. That's how you grew. You want to maintain that? You can. It's up to you. But the New York Times is going to jump all over that.
Yeah, I think that they wanted to drive whatever narrative they are. I mean, we're two conservative guys that are gun owners that, I've been in this space for 10 years, and they can say whatever they want about the company, and that's what they did, and I think there's portions of that story that were directly meant to hurt our customer base and our company, and I don't know.
I think there was just about all of the story was really meant to do that. Go back and read it again. Now, I know a lot of people are really criticizing Black Rifle Coffee Company for basically retweeting the story as if they were affirming the contents of it, as if they were supporting the story. But you have to keep in mind, when they got the article, they're only going to be looking, this is confirmation bias, they're going to be looking for the things that paints them in a good light. And so they saw the stuff in there about the veterans and stuff, and they highlighted it. They didn't look at this from the big picture. People like me and Liberty Doll and all the others that have been commenting on this, they went looking for the negatives, and they found plenty. And the reason why is the story was negative, but you didn't see it because you were looking for affirmation. You were hoping beyond all hopes that the story would be very positive for your company. So when you read it, you went looking for the good things. And so I understand why you thought it was a good article initially. I think you're seeing better now. People have pointed out where not only did you make some mistakes, But they screwed you, man. They really did a number on you.
Necessarily know if there were motives behind that or whatnot, but like all we can do is just be open and transparent, be who we are, keep
Right.
roasting great coffee, and do what we're doing.
Right.
And that's
And that's not true. That's really the wrong take to take on this. You can't do that. This whole idea, well, we just can do nothing but be transparent, roast our coffee. Yeah, okay, you go on doing that. Why are you here talking to Dana Loesch about this thing in the first place? Why aren't you in the back there roasting your coffee? You're interviewing with her because you see a problem. You have a marketing PR hit here. So it's obviously not just about roasting your coffee and ignoring all the negative vibes.
that's all we're trying to do, and set the record straight in some of the stuff that I believe was completely taken out of context.
Right.
Okay, so the New York Times is not interested in you setting the record straight. They came to you. I get it. They came to you and they said, hey, man, we feel that you've been unfairly treated out there. It's a damn shame that people are misunderstanding what you represent. If only there was a platform out there where you could tell your true story. That would be great. Look, we'll offer you that to you. We'll have one of our writers come out and he'll let you say what you want about your company. We'll print it. Oh, they won't print all of it. In fact, they'll print very little of it. But they're not going to come out there and say, hey, we want to do a hit piece on your coffee company. Will you interview with us? They're going to promise you what? Transparency and a platform. And you fell for it. Never, ever interview with mainstream media. In a minute, I'll show you an example of what happens when you do, besides your own saga.
Right. So it did, because to me, when I read the piece, it seemed like you guys got, well, and again, I know how reporters can take things out. I've done a piece with a they storming in your studio.
Yeah, someone's good.
I've talked to the New York Times before, and I know how. In fact, we got a Washington Post reporter coming here this week, so I know how it can be, and it can be very, it can be, you know how they come at you with certain angles.
Sure.
So I want to, because I was looking at a couple of parts of the article. So this is where, one of the things that I found was crazy is they were trying to, let's just start with, did they ask you about any of the people that they were quoting in this piece? Because it seemed like they went and found some of the most controversial people. And I know that there's been a lot of stuff said about some of the folks that have been named and have been, that were talking about your business. But did you know of anybody that they were talking to? Were you asked about any of them? Because I'm going to get to the Rittenhouse thing in a moment. But what did you know anything at all before?
No, we could kind of pick up from the conversations as to the perspective, or at least the lens that they were looking through. But we really didn't care. Right. To be honest with you,
you wanted to talk about your stuff, and
do you care now?
Let me get to. This is what I thought. It said Black Rifles executives. I like this thing. And this is really, I think, the thrust of it. They think it's provocative, the stuff that you guys do, obviously. And sure. I got the impression that they thought that what you guys did was too extreme, because they even said at one point, Trump courted military and service to an extreme, and Black Rifle Coffee Company does that too. And they said that, your guys aren't the size of Starbucks, but you could achieve your own kind of red state ubiquity. And clearly there's hostility there. They get into your background with coffee. I didn't know, Evan, that you actually took your own pour over stuff when you were serving. The part that I think that really got everybody is when it gets into the Rittenhouse stuff, and then when it's talking about, for instance, people were getting into the racial aspect of it. So let me bring up the Rittenhouse thing. I've talked about this at length. I thought Kyle Rittenhouse acted in self-defense. As a mother, I think there's two separate issues that are competing here, and I've written about this, talked about it. I'm happy to have this debate with anybody. As a mother, there's no way in hell that I'm going to let my child, who can't even sign a legal contract, to go across the state line and defend a store that's not mine, or do.
Yeah, we don't care about, as a mother, what you would let your kid do. That's not what this is about. Kyle took it upon his own initiative to do this. You either support him or you don't. Whether you would let your own kid do this is irrelevant.
Do something that he doesn't have to do like that. Separate from that issue, when I saw how because he was being pursued, and he was absolutely attacked in the video, and he was defending himself. the fact that someone had a Black Rifle Coffee Company shirt or hat there, I'm just curious. Do you know, has anybody asked like Nike or Adidas or any of the other brands that were present at any of these things that you guys are trying to get pegged on? Why is it that they're only going after you think, and asking why is your brand present at this event?
Well, the answer is obvious. It's because their marketing early on targeted right-wing conservative lifestyles. And so here is Kyle Rittenhouse wearing a Black Rifle Coffee shirt. Yeah, okay, they're going to be targeting that. They're going to be asking questions about it. Everybody wears Nike stuff. That wouldn't raise an eyebrow at all. Wearing a Black Rifle Coffee Company t-shirt is a little bit more of a political slogan than wearing a Nike shirt, even though Nike is every bit as political as any other company. But people don't wear this stuff for political reasons. And so I understand why wearing the Black Rifle Coffee Company would at least raise some questions. Is there anything wrong with it? No. Do I think that this makes Black Rifle Coffee Company a sponsor of Kyle? No. But it does raise a question. We can't be naive about this.
Well, I think for me, like, mainstream media is inherently left, right? And we are the antithesis of what they like. We're a bunch of former soft guys that shoot guns on the weekend and, love the American flag. And I think for that instance, I think a lot of that stuff got taken out of context. I have a concealed handgun license. I carry a gun nearly everywhere I go. And at any time, I'm ready to have the opportunity to defend myself legally. So if someone does that, of course I'm going to support them, right? And I think that there's instances within this company that we get thrown into a larger political discussion. I was carrying a gun 7 years ago for a living. I am not smart enough to be a political commentator, like straight up, and all we can try to do is do the right thing and support where we can. But
right. And I know, Evan, you and I've talked before on that, on the defensive aspect. You were on this program and you talked about it. So I'm not quite sure where, because
my viewpoints haven't changed exactly. I'm almost 100% in line with you, which is, I think in that, for instance, he had every right to defend himself in that circumstance. I don't know how the legal system is going to push left or right. I don't know what was happening before, and I honestly don't know what's after. But I do know, and I do believe that people have the right to defend themselves, and they have the right to defend their property. Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. But there are external circumstances that I cannot weigh into. I don't know, but I do believe in the right to defend yourself.
Right.
And I think the courts will decide ultimately right or wrong or indifferent.
You think the courts will decide right or wrong? Yeah, no kidding? Really? I would never have guessed that the court's going to decide sooner or later whether Kyle was in his right or not to defend himself. Of course they're going to. That's an empty statement. This is not the same as saying that you think Kyle is innocent. And what you're saying is, well, if the court kind of finds him guilty, I guess he is.
But I believe in the right to defend yourself. I believe in the Second Amendment. And that's never changed for 7 years. Like, I carry a gun every day. And I cannot be more adamant about that. It's like,
but I might have him
the right to
beat,
to
though,
bear arms.
Dana. I think my safe room's bigger than his.
Yeah. No, his safe room is
Humble
bigger
brag.
than mine.
Right.
And, but I think for that point, it's it's belaboring in this context of nobody else is going after Adidas or Nike or Timex for what they were wearing, but because I think we have a unique opportunity as Black Rifle Coffee to be something fairly big and unifying across the United States, because we serve a greater purpose than just serving coffee and creating profit for shareholders.
Right.
We have a greater identity and we have values, I should say.
Right. Well, then that makes sense. I want to ask you guys a quick question. Do you guys want to hang on for a couple of minutes and do one more segment? Because there's two things that I wanted to ask you from this piece, and we're talking with the guys at Black Rifle Coffee Company, Evan Hafer and Mat Best, because they did an interview with the New York Times, and Twitter went nuts over this over the weekend, and I kind of wonder if sometimes I get frustrated because I feel like people on our side who are clearly our allies sometimes get set up. And I understand that the right has been hurt a lot. And I think that people always are on offense, but sometimes that can be a little bit premature. And
sometimes get set up. No, it's just about every time. It's just that most of the time you don't realize it. When mainstream media is coming out to interview you, they are not your friend. They are acting very much like the cops when they're interviewing you for a crime. They want to extract out of you what they want to hear. And if they hear things that they don't like, they're just not going to print those things. You cannot win. They have the golden pen, and the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, until after a civil war when they take the journalists out and get them shot, but other than that, the pen is mightier than the sword. And you just cannot win that battle. You cannot charm your way into a positive spin. You cannot outwit them because ultimately they have the delete key and you don't.
I want to get into that with these two quotes from this piece, one of which gets into racism and the other one where you were talking about, Matt, I think this was, or no, Evan, this was you. No, Matt, you said you were talking about hijacking of branding. So I want to ask you about that and then the racism quote as well. If you guys want to hang out with us just for a couple of minutes and we'll get to those. Awesome. I appreciate it. And we are rejoined by the guys at Black Rifle Coffee Company, and I'm having some of the Berserker blend. I feel like a sissy because I put oat milk in it this morning. Tastes good, though. But we're talking with Matt Best and Evan Hafer because they gave an interview to the New York Times, and everybody started kung fu fighting after that. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us and staying with us. All right, two quick questions here because this is all from this New York Times piece. Matt, you said, you told the New York Times you can't let sections of your customers hijack your brand and say this is who you are. No, we define that. And there were some people who interpreted that as you saying, you excluding them, I guess, from being part of the Black Rifle Coffee family. That's kind of how it came out in the New York Times piece. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think that flow of the article, they set it up nicely in the sense of they're pushing a point that they wanted to say.
And by nicely, they mean very strategically, to hammer you.
I'm discrediting or we're somehow devaluing our customer base, right? And I could be defensive or I could talk exactly to what I was saying. Over the last 10 years of being in business, I have been the anti-woke guy, and the left has demolished me. I've gotten death threats. I've gotten, my wife's gotten, name it across the board from the left. So when I see stuff like Black Rifle Coffee is a white supremacist coffee company, I'm not letting the left hijack our brand. So that is essentially, in context, is a general term saying the brand guidelines, who we are, our value system and proposition exists from the owners, the partners, and everybody that built this company.
Okay, that's not what happened, though. Let's go back and read what was actually written. Okay, so here is what he's talking about. It says here, you can't let sections of your customers hijack your brand and say, this is who you are, Best told me. Okay, now, who are these sections of your customers? Right now, you just heard Matt Best say, well, we were talking about the left, right? Well, let's take a look. Let's go right above it. Who were they talking about? The preceding paragraph talks about Saint Michael the Archangel. And what's bad about St. Michael the Archangel? Well, Hafer learned from a friend at the Pentagon that an image of St. Michael trampling on Satan had been embraced by white supremacists because it was reminiscent of the murder of George Floyd. Now, any plans for the coffee bag had been scrapped. This won't see the light of day. What do they say next? They go into, you can't let sections of your customers hijack your brand. It's clear that the way they arranged this was to make it look like you were talking about white supremacists and essentially Proud Boys and militias and anybody that's right of Chairman Mao. So again, they just maneuvered the paragraphs around to make the flow, make it appear that you were talking about, guess who? Conservatives. Now, that's your claim. But what really happened? Well, we don't know. Maybe if you had audio taped the conversation, you would know. But I bet you didn't, because they wouldn't let you. That was probably the terms of the interview. And if they won't let you audio tape the interview, you need to get the hell out of there.
Right.
So that's what that statement is there for. Like, we are a veteran-owned and operated company
and that's your mission.
Supports and that's our mission.
Right.
And it's pretty transparent out there. And I think it's easy to conform those statements, supports, and that's our mission.
Right.
And it's pretty transparent out there. And I think it's easy to conform those statements. Exists from the owners, the partners, and everybody that builds this company.
Right.
So that's what that statement is there for. Like, we are
Right.
a veteran-owned and operated company
And that's your
that
mission.
supports, and that's our mission.
Right.
And it's pretty.
Now, Dana's going, right. She's going along with everything they say. But who's to say that they're being truthful here? I don't know. So Dana's being a little bit soft here, but okay. It's her show, not mine. She gets to do what she wants.
Pretty transparent out there. And I think it's easy to conform those statements into like
Right.
trying to make us look bad because they don't want us to be in business. They don't.
Evan, I wanted to ask you, because we got like, what, a minute 30 left, I think, Kane, or Kane, you'll let me know. You were asked about the racism part. I don't know
Yeah.
why they even decided to bring that up to you, but okay, they were out of nowhere. They decided to.
Gee, I wonder why they would bring the racism issue up, because they always do. It's the race card. They're always going to play that because they can get you on uncomfortable turf. They can pepper you with questions that are going to be difficult to answer transparently. You love that word so much. It's going to be difficult to answer transparently without getting yourself in some hot water.
Ask you about racism, and you said, "Oh, this racism expletive really, blanks me off. I don't like." You were talking about the racist that you don't like, and then of course, because the left wants to characterize all the right as being racist, that's how it was interpreted. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so the context of that conversation was about the direct attacks that the company had from last year that was representative against or from racists and anti-Semites. We were the recipient of an attack against a very organized group of anti-Semites because of my last name. And we were discussing racist and anti-Semite remarks in that portion of our society. So my quotes are taken directly from, this is what I was referring to, the attacks, the inboxes being flooded, the doxing, the death threats. That's what I was saying. I was saying, this is the worst of our society.
Yeah, I wish we had more time. Our hour's getting ready to wrap up. I also want to, everyone needs to pay attention to that last line, because they were asked if they would ever sell a Beyond Black Lives Matter coffee, and you guys said, yeah, no. Because again, you were talking about your mission. Evan Hafer, Matt Best, appreciate you guys. BlackRifleCoffeeCompany.com. We'll catch up again. Thanks, guys, so much.
Their mission is to make money. They're a for-profit company. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, this was terrible what the New York Times did to these poor boys. Well, I'm not sure how innocent these poor boys are in all this. I can't say. I wasn't there. And apparently they didn't record anything. However, I can comment on what the mainstream media has done in the past. This is Katie Couric. Watch. Oh, let me set the stage here. She's going to ask these members of a pro-gun group based out of Virginia one of these tough questions, and you're going to see these guys really stumble. Oh my God. Katie Couric just destroys the pro-gun message with this documentary. It's called Under the Gun, by the way.
Let me ask you another question. If there are no background checks for gun purchasers, how do you prevent felons or terrorists from purchasing a gun?
She really stumped him. How embarrassing. You know what it was like in those movie theaters, because this went into movie theaters, right? People wouldn't pay money to go and sit inside a theater and watch this. And how did it sound? I bet everybody cackled like hell. Ha, 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 ha. Boy, she really stumped those pro-gun people. What a bunch of morons. Look at them. They couldn't answer the question. They must not have thought everything through. Okay? You really buy that? Well, guess what? That long pause that you heard, 9 seconds, didn't happen. Oh, it happened, but not then. It was from another part of the interview. They took the 9 seconds out of silence and stuck it in there to make it look like they were stumped. Let's watch a little bit more here.
Couric is now apologizing, saying, "When I screened an early version of the film with the director Stephanie Sachtig, I questioned her and the editor about the pause and was told that a beat was added for, as she described it, dramatic effect."
Yeah, dramatic effect, as in, ho, 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 ho. The drama here is we stumped a bunch of pro-gun people. That's what the dramatic effect was about.
To give the audience a moment to consider the question.
How many out here buy that argument? How many of you on the left buy this argument? That was just a little snippet they stuck in there to give the audience time to think about the answer. And by the way, look at the headline. Couric apologizes for misleading edit. $10 to anybody that can show me where an apology is anywhere in her statement. Oh, she says more. Let's go ahead and listen in.
When VCDL members recently pointed out that they had in fact immediately answered this question, I went back and reviewed it and agree that those 8 seconds do not accurately represent their response.
Some apology. Hey, how about this? We feel terrible because we made them look stupid when they weren't. We really wronged them. We are terribly sorry. We are embarrassed about that. That's an apology. She didn't apologize at all. All she is saying is, well, now we did look back, and now those 8 seconds, they do not accurately represent their response. Now you may be wondering, well, they caught it, right? They caught it and they came clean. No, they didn't. Katie Couric and this Sochteg lady, whatever her name is, they didn't come clean at all. They were in on it. They knew all about it. She's admitting that she screened it, saw it, didn't do anything to pull it out. They didn't correct it. And the only reason why they're apologizing, sort of, is because one of the members of the Virginia Citizens Defense League taped it. He had the goods on them and he played it. And that's how they knew that they had to come clean, because he had proof that they butchered them. This is mainstream media. This is what they do. You have not a prayer going in against these people. The only thing you can do is audio tape the recording. But guess what? They won't let you. And you may wonder, well, why don't they? Oh, I know. They won't let you record it because, well, there's copyright issues and there's intellectual property issues. No, they don't want you taping it because that way they can edit it however they want. I know what you're thinking. I'll go into the mainstream media there. When they interview me, I will be very careful about my responses. Well, VCDL their answer was actually right on the spot. They immediately answered. And their answers were really good. Didn't stop these people from doing anything. They just took the 8 seconds, stuck it in there anyway, and made them look like a bunch of fools. Oh, and I should mention one more thing. What was this Under the Gun's main claim to fame? It was that it was supposed to be an objective look at gun control. Yeah, Katie Couric went around all over the country telling everybody about how she had a hard time because she had to look at this thing objectively. And they spent an enormous amount of effort to making sure that they looked at this thing in an unbiased fashion. From the same people who stuck 8 seconds of silence in to make a bunch of people look like they were stupid. You cannot win. Like my video, subscribe to my channel.